Good afternoon and welcome to BSR 16. It is absolutely great to be with you all. Thank you for being here. And we're really excited about what we have in store over the next few days. It's almost the end of the year. It's really been a very remarkable year, tumultuous year. I'm glad we're not starting the conference a week from today because I think you would all be glued to the television. We would have 6 people here, I think. So things are changing, and I guess there's a reason why Bob Dylan got the Nobel Prize in Literature, because he said it 50 years ago, the times they are a-changing. And he wrote that in the 1960s, which of course was a time of immense cultural change. And he captured the baby boomer sense that everything was changing, and a lot did change in the 1960s. Well, we're here 50 years later, and the world is changing in ways that I think go well beyond what Dylan saw down in Greenwich Village in the 60s. And our year, 2016, follows on a year where we had 2 great successes that were incredibly important to all of us who care about sustainability. The arrival of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement came to fruition. And we closed the conference Thursday night. We're going to close with a plenary on climate and politics, appropriately enough. And the next day, the Paris Agreement comes into force. And there aren't many times when you can say, we think we're seeing a turning point in history. I think this is one of them. And it's something absolutely to celebrate. So 2015 delivered the goods. 2016 has, in some ways, delivered the bads. We've seen Brexit. There's populism from the right, in the United States, in Europe, in many parts of Asia. Of huge interest to the business community, support for global trade in the more mature economies is plummeting. Europe is facing security challenges and a refugee crisis. And then again, there's that election that we're having here in the United States, and someone figured out that climate change occupied 35 seconds of the presidential debates, which was the bad news. The good news is that's 35 seconds more than it was covered in the presidential debates in 2012. So we're not exactly covering the topics that are of most central importance to us, not only in the future, but right now. So 2016 has been an interesting year, following a year when a lot of amazing and great things happen. And I think this sweep reinforces the sense of urgency that I feel, and I hope all of you feel, the need to be bold. It's pretty clear, I think. Be bold. In the words of our conference theme, the essential task of building an economy that's fair, inclusive, and sustainable. So as we know well, the world is changing in some fundamental ways. In fact, the basic conditions that have defined the way business has operated over the last 25 years are fading fast. And we're going to see a world we already are that is going to look very, very different. So what is that? Well, first and foremost, everyone in this room knows that disruption is the name of the game, that new business models, new challengers, new technologies can knock incumbents out of their position seemingly overnight. Of course, many of these changes also create immense opportunities for business, but the fact is that the churn on the list of the world's largest companies is turning faster than ever. Second, the very manufacturing models that have defined the era of globalization are also changing very fast. The era of extended supply chains with labor-intensive production, that model is being eroded, and it's being reinvented with robotics, AI, micro-manufacturing. And while this era is not ending, it is definitely changing, and it raises some really questions, such as, will we start to miss jobs that people call sweatshop jobs once those jobs are gone? Good question. The energy equation is changing as well, and it's not just a question of wishing that change, it is absolutely happening. You know, the Financial Times reported from the International Energy Agency last week that renewables now outpace coal in terms of power generating capacity. That is a big milestone. The ratings agency Fitch has called the decline of the internal combustion engine potentially an existential threat to the energy industry. I think back to a time when there was a movie making the rounds called Who Killed the Electric Car? I'm sure Elon Musk has a good laugh whenever he sees that in his Netflix queue. That is not the world that we're seeing today. And new technologies are also bringing new ethical dilemmas, personalized medicine, big data and genetics that can help us understand how to stay healthy while also raising a lot of really thorny ethical questions. So science, culture, technology, economics, all these things are redefining our world. They're redefining the world of business. And you know, this is a sustainability conference. We're here to talk about sustainable business, and all of these changes are actually not about the sustainability context. They are the new business context. What that means, I think, is that it is time for us to redefine what we mean when we talk about sustainable business. We have to redefine our approach to meet our moment and not just retrofit yesterday's world, some of the things that are fading away. I think before getting into the specifics, it's really important to talk about foundational values. The world is changing very, very radically, there's no doubt about it, but our values are not, or should not be changing. And this has been a year, let's face it, when in political debates, not just in the United States, in Europe, in places like the Philippines, where basic values are being called into question. I think we have to believe in open societies, basic economic fairness and honesty, equal and respectful treatment of people, social cohesion, intergenerational justice. These are really important values that we need to hold on to. These were things that underpinned the first wave of corporate responsibility in Minnesota. We'll hear from Ken Powell of General Mills in a few minutes, but out of Minnesota right after the war. These were the values that informed the rise of the modern sustainability movement at the time of the Rio Summit in 1992. And these are the values that need to keep us grounded in our time of immense change. In fact, they may be the only thing that is not changing or should not be changing, and the only thing that can keep us grounded. So how do we apply these values? What do we do? Well, I think there's three ways that we need to redefine what we mean by sustainable business. First is we need to redefine our agenda. And there's a word that is not a complicated word. It's not sustainability jargon, and my bet is it doesn't appear in many GRI reports. It's the word fairness. More attention needs to be given to basic economic fairness. This is the foundation on which social cohesion rests, and it's in somewhat short supply right now. So we should put this higher on our agenda, thinking more about how to maintain quality jobs in a time of great technological change, thinking about income inequality that's so important to keep our societies together. We can't fight climate change if we don't think about basic economic fairness, and combating climate change done right will enhance economic fairness. So we need to redefine our agenda. We also need to redefine our tools. I think that sustainability leaders need to be a bit more fluent in some of the new tools and new models that are reshaping the core of business. So I'll play the alliteration game here and say we need to know blockchain as much as biodiversity, big data as much as deforestation, and Snapchat as much as stakeholders. These are the things that are driving our world, and we need to figure out what they mean for the kinds of outcomes that we're trying to create. So redefining our tools. Third is redefining the ways we work to achieve change. I think we've said this before. This is something that BSR believes in very strongly, achieving systemic change through collaboration. Individual company leadership is very, very important. We're going to hear a lot about that over the next 3 days. But it only goes so far, and we're trying to change systems, not just the impact that an individual company has. And so looking at collaborations to address climate, to eliminate corruption and leverage the power of value chains, that's something also that needs to be given more and more attention. And I do think that as you look around, some good news from 2016, in fact, is that businesses are in fact embracing this, and businesses are in fact acting with boldness. One of the highlights for me this year has been that a number of companies have stood up for LGBT rights. Quite frankly, something that I don't think we would have necessarily expected as recently as 2, 3, 4 years ago. And the question of race in America has also come up, and there's been business leadership on that as well. Randall Stevenson, the CEO of AT&T, who's probably hanging out over at the Time Warner Center a lot these days, spoke about why he thought that the Black Lives Matter movement was so important. And I think his words were wonderful, and I want to read some of them. It's a difficult, tough issue. It's not pleasant to discuss. He's talking about racial tension, and AT&T is headquartered in Dallas, where there were some pretty difficult moments earlier this year. He went on to say, we have to start communicating, and if this is a dialogue that is going to begin at AT&T, I felt like it probably ought to start with me. That's bold leadership. It's a great example of that. And we're going to hear more from AT&T, in fact, on the question of diversity and the role of business in promoting it here at the conference. So that's an example of a bold commitment. We've seen lots of companies make commitments on climate. More than 1,000 commitments from several hundred companies through the We Mean Business platform, a collaboration that BSR is very proud to be a part of. And many companies have pledged not to go partway on renewable energy, but for 100% renewable energy. And that's kind of bold commitment that we really like. And we'll hear shortly from Ken Powell, who will talk about what he has done as a leader of an iconic American company to make climate commitments as well, and a lot of other ones that reinforce that. Okay, so next year, 2017, I'm going to stop at 2017, by the way. I'm not going to keep going year by year. BSR will celebrate its 25th anniversary, and we're really proud of that milestone. We're really proud of what we've helped to create with all of you over the years that we've been here. And we'll certainly take the opportunity next year to think about where we've come from, but we have more energy around thinking about where we and all of us need to go. And we've been thinking about that in the context of our own strategy, where we want to make more of an effort to redefine sustainable business, to build more powerful collaborations, and to modernize the way we all work together to achieve the kinds of results that we want. And we're not waiting for that anniversary year to arrive to really continue down that path. And I'd like to share a few of the things that we're at work on with you. So a few things that I think are new. We're partnering with a number of sharing economy companies to develop a set of principles that define what an inclusive sharing economy company looks like, something that I think is really crucially important and will enable innovation to happen in a way that societies feel like build broad, widely shared benefit. Really important. Related to that, we are going to be producing a series of papers coming up outlining the ways that businesses can help to preserve and extend good quality jobs in the era of automation, something we know is happening, and the business solutions to help make sure that we maintain the levels of employment we need for a strong and vibrant economy, really crucially important. We've launched a 3-year collaboration with support of the Dutch government to promote women's empowerment in global supply chains, working on the ground in Africa, in India, and working on important issues not only about labor but also violence against women, and what are the ways that value chains can be leveraged to make progress on that crucial issue. Related to that, we're beginning to work with some companies to redefine how we think about fair, inclusive, sustainable supply chains, looking at the models that companies will rely upon in the year 2025, and not just the models that I think we're still working on that were established in 1985, 1995. We're also generating ideas about some of the core activities that we all engage in, and tomorrow we're launching a report, for example, on more modern ways to think about sustainability reporting. How can we take some great steps forward there to build transparency that really matters? So we do all of these things because no business succeeds by standing still, and this is certainly true today more than ever. Transformation is the new normal. The modern sustainability movement developed because of a fundamental belief that tomorrow would absolutely be different than today. We all know that. And that the well-being of tomorrow's generations depend on the choices that we make today, and choices that need to be made based on our core values. I think all of us here in this room are architects of change. That's why we're here. That's why BSR is here. That's why BSR exists. So let us embrace all of this change, make it work for us, and use it as a tool to help us achieve the kinds of outcomes that we want, a bold future that we can all be proud of. We'll be talking about this over the next 3 days, so I want to talk to you a little bit about the conference to come. So first, some facts and figures. We had 7 BSR University trainings today. We have 31 breakout sessions coming over the next 2.5 days. 6 keynote speakers, 20 plenary stage speakers, 8 networking receptions, 10 self-development events. That's a new model for us. Headshots. We've never done headshots before at the BSR conference. I hope you took advantage of that today. And we have 102 speakers. We also take diversity very, very seriously ourselves. We were proud last year to have pretty good, I think just over 50% speakers women, and this year it's the same. It's 51% of our speakers are women, and men are holding up the rear. We'll do the best we can. Before transitioning, I want to say a couple of thanks. First of all, the conference doesn't come off without all of our great sponsors. So we really appreciate the support you provide that enables us to put on a top-flight event. Thank you very much. And I want to take this first opportunity also to thank the amazing BSR staff. This is the one time in our year when our team can gather from across 8 offices in Europe and North America and in Asia. And it's a great, proud moment to be able to have our whole team together with this great community. So I hope you enjoy the next few days. We'll hear a lot of thought-provoking ideas, a lot of tangible examples, and as always, we know that you're going to make some new connections that we hope will prove very valuable as well. Okay, now I want to introduce our first plenary speaker. Ken Powell will lead off the conference. I think I've mentioned that already. When I was thinking about introducing Ken, I tried to put take myself back a little bit and think that if my 10-year-old self had known that I was going to actually know the CEO of the company that makes Lucky Charms, he wouldn't have believed it. Just wouldn't have believed it. And I'm not sure I do either. This is a magically delicious honor, I have to say. But my adult self is also pretty happy as well, because I like to think about nutritious food for my own kids. They're more yogurt than Lucky Charms, I have to say. Organics that maintain soil health, an issue that's very important to Ken and Jerry Lynch and the team at General Mills, and preserving a climate that my kids' will also find to be sustaining and healthy. So Ken is leading his company in a bold way. And he's leading a company that is an iconic American company. It's been around for 150 years, and I know he speaks passionately about it being around for another 150 years. And one of the ways that he's leading is by integrating sustainability and commercial success, and that was recognized by the Harvard Business Review in its recent index of leading global CEOs based on both business performance and sustainability. So this is really crucially important. I also want to give a shout out to the work that Ken and the team at General Mills did last year, because they made some big commitments that Ken, I think, will be talking about in the run-up to Paris. And that was an important catalytic symbol, this benchmark, iconic American company demonstrating that it could go far on climate. That was one of those things that helped build the momentum that led to the agreement that is coming into force on Friday and will put us all on a different trajectory. So leadership's not just a word, it's something that really catalyzes a lot of important things, and we will be very fortunate to hear Ken talk about his vision for that. Ken.